Here we are in section 5.5, exercises 22 through 25. These are word problems. These are exactly like what we did way back with linear equations, except for now when we make an equation, it will probably end up giving us an x squared or an x cubed equation that we need to solve by factoring. So let's get to it. Jefferson's backyard is in the shape of a right triangle. So we have a right triangle like that. Okay, one leg of the triangle is 7 feet longer than the other. So if this is an x, that's an x plus 7. The hypotenuse, the guy straight across from there, is 17 feet. So our answers are going to be in feet. What are the lengths of the two legs? Now, the formula for a right triangle then was, when we had an a, a b, and a c, gave us Pythagorean's theorem, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. All right, that's good. So this is going to be x squared plus x plus 7 squared equals c squared. A squared plus b squared equals c squared. Ooh, this isn't in the right format at all. We've got to expand this out to get the whole thing equal to 0 so we can factor it. So this is going to be x squared plus this thing. Remember, you have to distribute. You can't just do x squared plus 49. This is going to be x squared plus 14x plus 49 equals 289. That's 17 to the second power. X squared plus x squared is 2x squared plus 14x. Subtract 289 over here and you get minus 240 equals 0. Now we have it equal to 0. So that's step number 1. But notice when you got it into an equation, now we have to know how to deal with that. And that's what this whole section has been about, is that if we know how to factor, we can get it equal to 0. And now we factor it. Greatest common factor? Indeed, 2x squared plus 7x minus 120 equals 0. This is now a trinomial with a leading coefficient 1. And so we're multiplying up to 120, negative 120. Could be 1 and 120, 2 and 60, 3 and 40, 4 and 30, 5 and 24, 6 and 20, 7, 8 and 15, 9, 10, and 12. There we go. And do any of those add to, so one of these has to be negative. There we go, negative 8 and 15. So this is 2x minus 8, x plus 15 equals 0. Now what's the next thing? Set each piece equal to 0. So this gives us 2 equals 0. That's not an answer. X minus 8 equals 0 gives us that x equals an 8 and x equals a negative 15. Now we go back. This is a word problem. This is a practical application. This is like in the real world. You can't have a triangle. So we're saying this could be 8 right here, or this could be a negative 15. And that one doesn't make any sense. Not because it doesn't work in the math, but because it doesn't work in the real world. So yes, x equals 8 feet. And then if x is 8, 8 plus 7 is 15 feet. Let's put feet on there. Now, please note that this 15 is because it's 7 bigger than 8, not because of this negative 15 down here. Good. Number 23. Let's see if we can make another equation here. Kara's building a right triangle hot tub. All right. So there's a hot tub right there. Good. And we're going to be using the same a squared plus b squared equals c squared. It has a leg 10 feet more than twice the other leg. So if this is our x, this is 10 feet more than twice the other leg. The hypotenuse is 25 feet. What are the lengths of the two legs? All right. So let's do our a squared plus b squared equals 0. That's our formula that gives us a math equation. X squared plus 2x plus 10 squared equals 25 squared. Now this is a math equation and it looks ugly, but do we know how to solve these? Yes, that's the whole point of this chapter, is that you've now been given the ability to solve polynomial equations. We've got to multiply this guy out, x squared plus, that's going to be 4x squared plus 2 times 10 is 20 times 2 is 40x plus 100 equals 25 squared is 625. Wow, that's huge. Now just double check. If you weren't able to see that, go ahead and take the 2x plus 10 and multiply it like this. And you'll see it goes to the 4x squared plus a 20x plus a 20x plus 100. Yeah, so that with the jumping and the jumping and the jumping and the jumping, that's where we got that guy. Okay, let's combine like terms and make sure we get it equal to 0. That was the whole point. We can't solve this thing if we don't get it equal to 0 before we factor. So that's 5x squared plus 40x minus 625, so that's minus 525 equals 0. So all that work from here to here was to get it equal to 0, so factoring would even be valuable at all. So factor a 5 out, and we're left with x squared plus 8x minus 105. Is that true? 525 divided by that? Yeah, it's 105. What's left is a leading coefficient 1 of a trinomial. So we've got a times to a negative 105 and add to positive 8. So 1 and 105. 3 and 35. Looks like that works. 5 and 21. 7 and 15. And I think that's about as good as we're going to get. And one of them has to be negative. So if we make these guys negative, does anything add to an 8? Oh, that guy right there, it does. So this is one of the nice simple ones once you get those two numbers, though that part wasn't simple. X minus 7 and x plus 15. And there's your 5. And all this equals 0. So we get, set this piece equal to 0, 5 equals 0. That's not an answer. X minus 7 equals 0 will give us x equals 7, and x plus 15 equals 0 will give us an x equals a negative 15. Now, again, this is real life. This is a word problem. This is practical application, which means we have to stay in the bounds of reality. Both of these numbers would work up here in this second degree polynomial equation. However, only one of them makes sense as this side of a triangle. Negative 15, I'm sorry, but you must leave. We can't have negative 15 here. But we can have 7. So if x is 7 feet, then 2 times 7 is 14 plus 10. This guy is 24 feet. So here are the two sides of our triangle, 7 and 24. And you could check that to see if 7 squared plus 24 squared equaled 25 squared. It is true. All right, number 24. The energy of an object is dependent on its mass and can be described by the following equation. Wonder where that guy came from. Maybe they made it up. But energy stands, E stands for energy and M stands for mass. If the energy of the object is 14 units, joules, watts, I don't know what they're using for energy, but 14 units, what is the mass of the object? And we don't know if that'll be kilograms or pounds or grams or whatever. So energy is 14. So that means 14 is going right here. And it's asking what is M. When I make that substitution, notice what we have. It gave us the equation, 2m squared minus 12m. We have an equation. Ta-da! We're in happy math land where we feel comfortable. Step number 1, get it equal to 0. 0 equals 2m squared minus 12m minus 14. We subtracted the 14 from both sides. Now, step number 2, factor. Do we have a greatest common factor? Yes. Take out the 2 and we got m squared minus 6m minus 7. And what's left is a trinomial. 3 terms, leading coefficient 1. So this is, we are timesing to a negative 7. We have to add to a negative 6. Could be 1 and a 7 or, well, it's just a 1 and a 7. Negative 7 and a positive 1. So this is leading coefficient 1, all we had to do were find those two numbers, m plus 1, m minus 7, 2. And this all equals 0. So now that we have it factored, factoring, each piece equals 0. 2 equals 0 does not give us an answer. Can't solve for m. m plus 1 equals 0 gives us an answer of m equals 1. And m minus 7, oh, negative 1, sorry. And m equals negative, m minus 7 equals 0 gives us m equals 7. One of these doesn't make sense as the mass of an object. You can't have mass of negative 1. So I'm afraid the real world casts this mathematically valid and perfectly fine answer out the window and leaves us with 7 units, kilograms. It doesn't give us the units to be able to use here, so we can't quite use those. Number 25 says the area of a window is 192 inches squared. So we have a window, I don't know, is it a rectangular window? Width and length, yeah, so we got to be a rectangular window here. And it says the area equals 192 inches squared, which means it's in a second dimension, good, so it's area, good, 192. The width of the window, here's the width, is 4 more than half the length. So here's the length, there's the width. What are the dimensions of the window? Now notice how this differs from problems that we had way back when we were solving linear equations. We used to add these to get a perimeter. Now when we do these kind of problems, the area is the length times the width. So this is 192 equals the length times 1/2 the length plus 4. We have a math equation. You should be happy about that. Distribute that in and we have 192 equals 1/2 L squared plus 4L. If we subtract the 192 over here, we can actually, look how slick that is. Well, let's do that in the next step. So subtract 192 and we get 0 equals 1/2 L squared plus 4L minus 192. So subtract 192 from both sides. It's equal to 0. I don't like this fraction. Now the question is, do we know how to get rid of fractions? We do. Let's times everything by 2. Times by 2, times by 2, times by 2, times by 2, and we get 0 equals L squared plus 8L minus 384. That kind of looks like an 81, huh? There we go, there's an L. Okay, so, ouch. I don't know my 384 times tables, but we got it equal to 0. Step number 1, check. Notice from a math equation, getting it equal to 0 sometimes takes a little while. Now factor it. So we got to find the factors of negative 384 that will add to a positive 8. So this is 1 and 384. We know it's 2 and 192. 3, does 3 go into that? Maybe. Yeah, 3 and 128. Is that right? Yeah, 3 and 128. Okay. So 4 goes into it 96 times. Just doubled that and halved that one. 5, 6 goes into it 64 times. 7, 8 goes into it 48 times. 9, I don't think so. 10, 11, yeah, 12 will go into it. 12 will go into it 32 times. 14, 15, 16 will go into it 24 times. Oh, I'm way out of room. Oh, look, we found it. We can stop. So 16 being a negative, 24 being a positive, and that'll get us a positive 8. Excellent. So we get L minus 16, L plus 24 equals 0. We factored it. Yay! So that's step number 2. Boy, step number 2 sometimes is long. So now, step number 3, each piece equals 0. So L minus 16 equals 0. That's L equals 16. Or L plus 24 equals 0. L equals a negative 24. Now we've got our answers and they are mathematically correct in here. Both of them will work, but one of them doesn't make sense in the real world. Could we have this be a negative 24 inches? No, sorry, reality has tossed him out as an option. The length is 16 inches. So this equals 16 inches. And then you take half of the length, which is 8 plus 4 is 12 inches. The window is 16 inches by 12 inches. And 16 times 12 is indeed 192 inches squared for the area. Math is magic.